Lesson 9, fictional Prabhupads. Studying our founder Acharya's teachings without studying his life and how he lived and applied those teachings is impersonal. And becoming attached to our founder Acharya's personality without studying and following his teachings is sentimental. Before we continue to explore how to deepen our love for Srila Prabhupada, let's identify and dispel, get rid of, some lingering, impersonal, and sentimental misconceptions we may have about him. So for the image on the lead slide for fictional Prabhupads, I chose some nice, I have a godbrother, Haripad Prabhu, who does these beautiful line drawings of Prabhupada. So some of them lent themselves to a kind of, ghostly interpretation. So I have, the caption I put in my script is, Prabhupada drawings face off as, quote, fictional Prabhupads. So you can imagine perhaps this image saying, are you the real Prabhupada? And this one saying back, I was wondering the same thing about you. So the whole idea is that before we can enter into an authentic relationship with Prabhupada, we have to get rid of any wrong-headed ideas about him. Misconceptions, right. Because before you can engage in rasa, relationship, you've got to have the truth, the tattva, straight. So what do we mean? By fictional, we mean illusory, false, or incomplete. Now there's the tricky one, because some of these fictional Prabhupads, you're going to think they're true. That's where they get subtle. Some of them are obviously wrong, and some are not obviously wrong. So that's what makes it interesting. Okay, let's list some impersonal fictions. There's, again, this is a Haripad. Prabhupada's looking rather, you say, askance, suspicious. He's going to see this list. All right, so who are some? You want to read? Okay.
Prabhupada is God.
Right. Now, it sounds crazy, but it actually happened in ISKCON, if you know the history. And if you don't, we'll tell you about it. Here's another one. Now, you got to read it the way I put it up. You see how this is?
ISKCON is Prabhupada.
Yes. That's what makes it false. And
The GBC is Prabhupada.
is, in all respects, right? Not. And
Prabhupada is the Guru only of his initiated disciples.
I think, as I mentioned, when Prabhupada would introduce himself, he never said, my name is A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. I am the Diksha Guru of about 5,000 ex-hippies. He never said that. How would he introduce himself? My name is A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. I'm the, what, do you know? I'm the founder Acharya. That's more precise, and it's broader. I'm the founder Acharya. And he's the founder Acharya for all generations of his followers. That's the whole point of the seminar, not just for a few endangered species like me. We're getting older and we're rapidly following Prabhupada out of this world. So what's going to happen? That's what they tell me, right? Oh, Sureshwar, I can't imagine what ISKCON will be like when the last Prabhupada disciple has left. Don't tell me that. It's every generation's responsibility to imbibe our founder Acharya's life, teachings, mood, and mission. Not just his initiated disciples. It's not about Diksha. Okay, so let's look at each one. Yeah. Okay. All right, where's Prabhupada there again? Bhaktivedanta Manor, 1973 summer. This time, Bhargava Prabhu has captured Prabhupada looking very sternly, maybe disapprovingly even, at something going on. So, Prabhupada is God. So, does anybody remember from lesson 1, which is a long time ago now, it's been a whole week and a day. Does anybody remember how Prabhupada introduced the oneness and difference of God and Guru on ISKCON's first Janmashtami in September 1966? Raise your hand if you can tell us how Prabhupada introduced that oneness and difference of God and Guru. Anybody, you remember? Okay, let's get the mic. We have Amadaji remembering.
Srila Prabhupada was explaining that philosophy is one, Krishna is one, but the teachings are different. The person may teach differently, but he...
Not exactly. No, that's something else. I'll give you a hint. He said on Janmashtami, the day before the initiations, he said, tomorrow we'll have initiations. And initiation means what? Do you remember what he said?
Worshipping Guru as God.
It means that the Guru accepts the student, takes charge of the student, and the student accepts the spiritual master as...
Good as God.
No, he just said God.
As God, yes.
That's what blew their minds. And then they didn't know what to do, because all summer Swamiji's been saying to them, if you say you're God, if you think you're God, you're dog. And then he says, you got to accept him as God. But he did that on purpose, to test their, to see if they were going to ask for clarification. And then Howard went for clarification, and what did Swamiji say? Do you remember what Swamiji said? Okay, Prabhu knows. I hope.
I don't remember the exact words, but I'm paraphrasing. He said, Guru is a representative of Krishna.
Yeah, and that's the punchline. He said, God is God, and the Guru is his representative. Is that clear? Well, first Howard said, what you told us this morning, does that mean that the Guru is God? No. Then what is he? No, then Prabhupada said, God is God, and the spiritual master is his representative. Is that clear? And it was clear, so it cleared up their doubts, and they went ahead and they took initiation. Otherwise, they were really, they loved Swamiji. He had taken him so far, and then he drops this bomb, but so he made this, even to raw recruits, he was able to make this very important distinction. Okay, so the fiction is Prabhupada is God now. You want to read it? Read the fact.
Fact. There's only one thing worse than underestimating the Guru, overestimating the Guru. They have said, I am God. Therefore, if I am God, they also can become God. This is impersonalism. Okay, this is a response from Prabhupada to rookie or brand new sannyasis that Prabhupada made in 1970 who were preaching that Prabhupada was God. But why were they saying that? That's an interesting story. So in 66, Prabhupada made this crucial distinction between Guru and God, which was important to make because all of his first followers were reading impersonalists. Reading, Paramahansa Yogananda and Dr. Radhakrishnan and all these people who were Mayavadis. So Prabhupada had to make that. Only 4 Janmashtamis later, in August 1970, that's when I joined in July, 4 newly deputed sannyasi disciples of Prabhupada were preaching that Prabhupada was God. And then Prabhupada had just formed the GBC, and the GBC were there at New Vrindavan. It was the first movement-wide festival celebrating Janmashtami. And I remember riding down from Boston. I joined in Boston. We rode 10 hours to Moundsville, West Virginia in a van. And we throw open the door in the 40 Econoline van. And what's the first thing I see stepping out of the van? I see a sannyasi with a temple president by the collar. And he's just practically throwing him against the white farm fence.
And he's saying, Prabhupada is God. Prabhupada is Krishna. And because we haven't recognized that, he's left us. He's gone back to India. Do you understand? Prabhupada is God. So why was he saying that? Because several months earlier, there's 4 of them. Brahmananda, Subal, Vishnujan, and Gargamuni. Especially Brahmananda says later, they were getting influenced by false propaganda coming from India, from some godbrothers of Prabhupada who were jealous of Prabhupada and were minimizing Prabhupada's position. Yeah, he's becoming successful because he was a businessman, he knows how to organize, he knows how to build up his organization. I mean, it was crazy stuff. But it was influencing these naive, brand new devotees. And so, to purify them, Prabhupada knew exactly what was going on. So in Los Angeles, to purify them, Prabhupada did a very bold thing. He gave them sannyas. And he said, get out of the house, hit the road, and preach. So they were preaching that summer, the same summer I joined. But as they traveled and preached, they began to feel so guilty for having been influenced by this propaganda against Prabhupada that Prabhupada was an ordinary man, basically. And they were becoming envious of Prabhupada. Why should they follow him? He's an ordinary man. But then Prabhupada set him straight and gave them sannyas. Can you imagine? Giving them sannyas. Telling them to hit the road and preach. And by the time they got to New Vrindavan, in mid-August, that's when Janmashtami Vyasa Puja was, they had done a psychological flip-flop. They had gone from minimizing Prabhupada to, as Prabhupada said, the only thing worse than underestimating is to overestimate and to make him God. So when we got to New Vrindavan, all of us devotees from all over the place, even people came from Europe and Mexico. It was the first big festival in ISKCON. The GBC also was meeting for the first time, face-to-face. The month I joined, in July, a month earlier, Prabhupada had created the GBC. Most of them householders. And so they met for the first time. And then they heard these sannyasis preaching, and they didn't buy it. They didn't believe it. But a lot of the devotees who had come, they were kind of mesmerized by these charismatic young men who had just been given sannyas. And they were kind of like spellbound. And you know what they were basing their whole Mayavad thing? It is in the first edition of Nectar of Devotion, page 59. Who is it? Krishna says to Uddhava, my dear Uddhava, know that the Acharya is my very self. And we now know the verse. Acharyang mam bhajaniyaham. So they were getting the oneness of Guru and God, but they forgot the difference, which we say every morning, Sakshad Hari Devena. He's directly Krishna-like because he's the servant. He's the Supreme Personality of Servitor Godhead. He's not God, but he's a Supreme Servant. So the GBC didn't know what to do because they could see that these men were very persuasive and they were bewildering a lot of the devotees. So their first official act as GBC was to call up Srila Prabhupada, who was in Tokyo. There was a phone call, there was a telegram, there was frantic communication. So finally Prabhupada said, expel them immediately. So they were kicked out. And Hayagriva, who was the MC for the GBC, he stood up finally after a few days of chaos. And he triumphantly announced that Prabhupada had told us to expel these sannyasis for their impersonalist preaching. And now we can go on and have a nice, blissful Janmashtami and Vyasa Puja. So if you want to see the whole story about it, there's the following Srila Prabhupada DVD series. It's DVD number 1. I'm on there, Brahmananda's on there, Bhagavan's on there. And the whole story comes out of why they were preaching that and what Prabhupada did. Prabhupada did give them a chance to come back later. He gave them another message. And the message was, you can come back into the association of devotees if you split up You go your separate ways and travel alone, like real sannyasis, and you preach the right thing, that the Guru is the most dear servant of the Lord. So they all went to different places, and Prabhupada said you have to recruit devotees and open up a center. And they did that. They were sincere. But it was, that was my introduction to ISKCON politics. And today, I tell you, nothing has ever matched that. Can you imagine? I had just joined I was a brand new person after I was in the movement 5 weeks. So I attend my first festival, and it looks like the whole movement is being torn asunder like an earthquake. Because half the devotees are believing that Prabhupada's God, and half the devotees are saying this is crazy. So Prabhupada dealt with it swiftly, decisively, to protect his movement. He actually expelled these 4 devotees who were so dear to so many devotees. But Prabhupada wasn't having any of it. Out. So Bhagavan drove them to Detroit, locked them in the attic, and then he let them out the next day in Detroit, Michigan. And that's we don't have time to tell the whole story, but it's quite a story of what happened. So this is impersonalism. So Prabhupada expelled the sannyasis. To uproot this impersonal weed in the heart of his movement, Srila Prabhupada expelled the sannyasis from ISKCON until they rectified themselves. Did you turn it all the way off? Now I'm cold. Okay. Anyway, don't mind me. I'll just keep unbuttoning and buttoning. In the next slide, we'll examine a subtler, quote, fictional Prabhupada. So where's the mic? Okay. There's Prabhupada again with the hands making a point. Must be in India with his shirt off, and you hardly ever saw that in the West. But, I think he's probably on the roof of Mr. Sethi's house, something like that. Okay, what's the fiction? Read it.
Oh, fiction. ISKCON is Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah, say it more with the emphasis on is.
ISKCON is Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah. That's what makes it wrong. Equal in all respects, right? Okay, now read the fact.
Fact. You are all my limbs of all of my body. Unless you cooperate, my life will be useless. The senses and life are correlative.
Correlative. That means you can't have one without the other.
Correlative. Without life, the senses cannot act, and without sense, life is inactive.
Since Srila Prabhupada has called us the limbs of his body, that means his unique spirit is our life and soul. While ISKCON is certainly Prabhupada's energy, as its creator, Prabhupada retains his own identity. As Srila Prabhupada once explained to a group of UK university students, this is extraordinary. In July 73, when Prabhupada was at the Manor, actually he's in London, he's addressing some college students, and he describes how he's one and different from ISKCON. They're not even his disciples, and for some reason he saw fit to tell them this. Quote, suppose if I say, I am everything in this my institution, does it mean I have lost my personality? No. If somebody says that Bhaktivedanta Swami is everything, does it mean I have lost my personality? That is material understanding. So ISKCON is Prabhupada, is fictional because it's incomplete. As the founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada is the life and soul of ISKCON, yet everything in ISKCON doesn't equal Prabhupada. Oneness without difference is impersonal and incomplete. It's like we say, Krishna is everything. Vasudeva Sarvamiti. But that doesn't mean we can worship the chair as Krishna. Right? Krishna is everything, but everything isn't Krishna. That's the nature of reality. There's a oneness and there's a difference. Okay. In the next slide, we'll look at a similar subtle fiction. Okay. So, you gonna read? Okay, you gotta read with the emphasis on is. There's Prabhupada and Mayapur. Again, I think it's like the same walk, or maybe a different walk. This is a partial profile of somebody you know very well. Can you tell? Yes. He's holding his Jayapataka. So he's a younger edition of Jayapataka Maharaj.
Yeah.
Who's that? Srila Kirti Prabhu. This is Yadavar Prabhu, the movie maker. This is a devotee named Rupanuga Prabhu. Now this you may know or may not know. I don't think he comes here. But he's a Swami now. And here he is in Grihastha Vesh. So I'll give you a hint. He preaches in Japan and Indonesia and Israel. Kavichandra Maharaj. Yeah, that's a young Kavichandra. This is the first Scottish devotee, Dhananjaya. I think that's Satsrup Maharaj. This is the late great Vishnu Jan Maharaj. And of course, Srila Prabhupada. So, let's see here. Let's read the fiction. You ready?
Fiction. The GPS is Prabhupada.
GB what?
GBC is Prabhupada.
Yes, very good. So let's read the fact. And the fact comes from Prabhupada's last will and testament. The first line of Prabhupada's last will and testament says this.
Fact. The governing body commission, GBC, will be ultimate managing authority for the entire International Society of Krishna Consciousness.
Does that mean they replace Prabhupada? Or they are Prabhupada? No. But they're the ultimate managing authority. Here's how the GBC defined ultimate managing authority. You see that date of the will? 4 June 77. It took 36 years for the GBC to resolve the controversy over what ultimate managing authority means. He used to call it UMA, ultimate managing authority. What is that? UMA. So in an official GBC position paper defining, quote, ultimate managing authority, the GBC identified its oneness with and difference from Srila Prabhupada. So this is a quote from the resolution. Quote, when we use the word authority in the context of the managerial structure, we do not mean an absolute, infallible authority, such as the authority of Scripture, but the mandate, the order, to organize the preaching movement so that it is aligned with the instructions of Srila Prabhupada. Very important distinction there. So if you ever hear somebody say that the GBC is Prabhupada's, sometimes you hear this, it's Prabhupada's chosen successors. That's very dangerous. You don't replace or succeed the founder Acharya, but Prabhupada did designate them as his ultimate managers to manage the society. And now, although Srila Prabhupada didn't have faith in any one GBC member, following the vision of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, Srila Prabhupada did have faith in the GBC body. He had faith in the collective sincerity and intelligence of the GBC body. Provided, now here's the big provided, provided they acted cooperatively to carry out his instructions. Here's how Srila Prabhupada put it to Tamal Krishna Maharaj as recorded in TKG's diary. We're coming up to the zonal thing now. So this is an excerpt from TKG's diary. It's June 27th, 1977. And TKG wrote, quote, in the middle of the night, Srila Prabhupada called for me. He could not sleep. Thinking of the will had kept him up. Prabhupada's already signed the will. Remember how we said that Prabhupada went back to Vrindavan to leave this world, and then Tamal Krishna Maharaj said, isn't it time for a will? Prabhupada said yes, and all the GBCs must be there. So the will's signed and everything's legal. But still Prabhupada's concerned about ISKCON. Is it really going to outlast him physically? So Prabhupada says to Tamal Krishna Maharaj, amongst the GBC, have you selected one after me who will succeed? It's a leading question, right? It's a loaded question. One? But TKG passes the test here. He says, I replied that we felt that we should manage together as a group, that none of us was more qualified than the others. And here's how Prabhupada replied. Very historic reply. Yes, each of you can be acharya of your zone. So Prabhupada, it was Prabhupada actually who created this zonal acharya concept. That at that time there were, I forget how many there were, but Prabhupada had the world, I think there were just 12. Prabhupada divided the world into 12 zones, and each could be supervised by a GBC Acharya. Not founder Acharya, but GBC Acharya. And now I make an observation. Although it was Srila Prabhupada himself who gave us the, quote, zonal Acharya system, the zonal Acharya nightmare that followed after his disappearance was evidence we did not really understand the crucial distinction between an Acharya and a founder Acharya. During that dark night, I'm telling you this because most of you weren't in ISKCON in the 80s, correct? Okay, so you were spared. It was a real dark time in ISKCON's history, and we came out of it. That's why we're here. Okay. During that dark night of ISKCON's soul, competing acharyas were threatening the integrity of the entire Hare Krishna movement. It was phenomenal. I mean, it was so crazy that there were as many Hare Krishna movements, plural, as there were zonal acharyas, because all these zones became kingdoms unto themselves. It became super fragmented and sectarian. And the people who were initiating after Prabhupada, who were in these, I mean, more or less. Some of it was more egregious and some of it was less offensive. But more or less, people were accepting worship on the level of founder Acharya. And because it was offensive, it went to their heads, a lot of them. And we were godbrothers of these gurus. We're even hearing things like, you cannot understand Srila Prabhupada except through me. That drove a lot of people out of ISKCON. And they ended up going to other Gaudiya Sanghas. And I don't blame them. So it was really disturbing. Only when all individuals GBC acharyas again heeded Srila Prabhupada's mandate to work cooperatively, because the cooperation was falling apart. Because they were all, it's like we say in America, a man's home is his castle, right? So an acharya's zone was his kingdom. It was wrong. Only when all individual GBC acharyas again heeded Srila Prabhupada's mandate to work cooperatively with his GBC body did ISKCON start the long recovery process that continues to this day. So there was only, there were 11 zonal acharyas, but there must have been more GBCs, because there were GBCs who weren't, gurus at that point. So it was, because the GBC is the ultimate managing authority, so somehow people imitating Prabhupada's position got it in their heads that they weren't accountable to the GBC. But everybody's accountable to the GBC. All individual GBC members are accountable to the GBC. So, and the GBC is accountable to Srila Prabhupada's instructions. So if the GBC, actually there was a time in the 1970s when Prabhupada suspended the GBC. He wrote a letter to all temple presidents saying, for the time being, don't listen to them. Because they were new, and they had this idea that everything should be centralized under one corporation. And Prabhupada was furious. They were going ahead and doing that without even consulting Srila Prabhupada. And then Prabhupada got wind of it, and he was so mad, he just wrote himself a letter to all the temple presidents and said, for the time being, I'm suspending the authority of the GBC. Don't listen to it. So Prabhupada had to do that. Now, thankfully, because of all these hard lessons we've learned, everybody's been chastened, and the GBC is very much realizing its position as that line said, where is it? Yeah, the ultimate managing authority, what does it mean? That we're infallible? No. What does it mean we replace Srila Prabhupada? No. But we're in charge of managing the preaching mission. And it's a great responsibility. Okay, so... only when all individual GBC acharyas again heeded Prabhupada's mandate to work cooperatively with his GBC body did ISKCON start the long recovery process that continues to this day. And that's why we're doing this seminar. That's, if we were fully recovered and everybody got it, that Srila Prabhupada as the founder Acharya provides everyone's foundational identity, foundational relationship, there'd be no need for this. But we're still recovering from the whole zonal Acharya conflation of Acharya with founder Acharya. So the GBC is Prabhupada is fictional because again it is incomplete. Although ISKCON's ultimate managing authority is the GBC does not replace ISKCON's founder Acharya, whose everlasting Vani remains the supreme authority for all ISKCON members. Oneness plus difference equals truth. Okay, now here's another impersonal fiction. The next fiction is a leftover from the zonal Acharya nightmare. Where's the... Okay?
Fiction. Prabhupada is the guru only of his initiated disciples.
And there's that San Francisco Rath Yatra again. This time Guru Kripa's turned toward us. You can see how happy, blissful he is. And Sudama and Tripurari is off the ground there. Hridayananda. Huh? Sudama Maharaj at the time.
Is it? No, they are...
Devamrita? No. No. He was in ISKCON, but he was in New York City. This is Sudama. He was a great actor. He's since passed away, but he was actually a famous person in the material world. He was a real character in a book called The Electric Kool-Aid Acid Test. Have you heard of this book? It was a counterculture book chronicling the 60s, the psychedelic 60s, and what was his name in the book? He was an African-American teenager on this psychedelic bus that was traveling all over America and freaking out the straight people. Yeah. Anyway, Sudama Maharaj, dramatist. Okay, so that's the fiction. Srila Prabhupada is the guru only of his initiated disciples. Let's read the fact. You ready?
Fact. Srila Prabhupada is the foundational Shiksha Guru for all ISKCON devotees because he has realized and presented the teachings of the previous Acharyas
Of the
Brahma Madhav Gaudiya Sampradaya appropriately for the modern age.
Okay, you see this? This is the first founder Acharya resolution the GBC passed. By 1994, the GBC was sufficiently recovered from the zonal Acharya era and then the consequent Ritvik challenge to make a public statement about Prabhupada's position. And this is only the first item of the resolution. We're going to see more items, I think, in tomorrow's lesson. So here's an interesting anecdote around this resolution. So 5 months after the GBC passed this resolution, so it was passed in March, and so say August, September, on Srila Prabhupada's Vyasa Puja morning in Mayapur, see these resolutions are always passed in Mayapur, right? So 5 months later, in the same place, Mayapur, India, there is an incident. A senior devotee gently confronted a local brahmachari for not observing the Vyasa Puja fast. A godbrother of mine was chanting in the courtyard outside Mayapur Chandrodaya Mandir. You know, they sell Mahaprasadam, and then there's a courtyard there. So he's chanting his rounds, and he sees some devotee in the corner, and he's chomping down at a big piece of pizza. And everybody's supposed to be fasting until noon. right? Because it's Prabhupada's Vyasa Puja Day. So as tactfully as he can, my godbrother goes up to the brahmachari and says, "Oh, Prabhu, maybe you didn't know. Today's Prabhupada's Vyasa Puja Day, and we're fasting till noon." But the brahmachari replied, "You say that because Srila Prabhupada is your guru. He's not my guru." So my godbrother was so stunned that he didn't say anything. He just turned around and he walked away, and they thought, wow, this Sonalacharya stuff is still alive and well. You know, people worshipping their guru more than Prabhupada even, or they're not getting Prabhupada's position. Obviously, no one had informed the brahmachari about the Founderacharya resolution passed just a few months earlier in Mayapur, where he was serving. That's what used to happen to the GBC resolutions. Now they have a whole GBC website and they publish it on Dandavats. You've seen the resolutions. But in the old days, the GBC would pass resolutions, and number one, no one knew what they were. And then even if they found out, they just said, okay, the GBC is doing its thing, you know. But it didn't have any relevance into the daily life of the assembled devotees. And the GBC now, of course, is much more mature, and they understand that that's not good. So they publish the resolutions, and now more and more they're creating tools to invite dialogue, and you can propose resolutions. In case you have a resolution to propose, the deadline's December 15th. Anyway, it's more of a transparent process between the GBC and the assembled devotees. I think that's the last impersonal. This is by no means an exhaustive list, but it's some of the more egregious fictions that sometimes you run into. So that's 4 impersonal fictions, and now we're going to look at some sentimental fictions. And Prabhupada's looking rather bemused. He's going to see these sentimental fictions. Where's the mic? Okay, Prabhu, read the sentimental fictions.
Illusory Prabhupada. Figurehead Prabhupada. Gone forever Prabhupada. Diksha Guru forever Prabhupada.
Notice I didn't say the R word. Diksha Guru forever Prabhupada. But that's what they mean. Okay, illusory Prabhupada. What do I mean by that? Well, this comes from... has anybody read Borijan Prabhu's My Glorious Master? It's another one of those must-reads. I mean, he's got to be an Australian naturalized citizen by now. He's been living in Perth for decades with Mother Jagatarini. And his daughter lives in Melbourne now. Yeah. And she really likes it. She told me she thought, this is a cool place. So Borijan wrote this great book, My Glorious Master. So in My Glorious Master, Borijan Prabhu describes how, isolated in Hong Kong in the early 1970s, he and his wife, Jagatarini Devi Dasi, gradually started neglecting Srila Prabhupada's instructions, while imagining they were still following Srila Prabhupada. When Srila Prabhupada visited them in person, they received a mercifully rude awakening. So here's what happened. It's one of those things, again, where Prabhupada just sent people all over the world. You know, Jagatarini from Australia, and Borijan Prabhu from Brooklyn, New York, and I'm not sure how they got together. I think it was just one of those Prabhupada, you marry her, and there was no Jyotish, no family. It was like a Sankirtan, it was a Hare Krishna explosion marriage. And they're still together, so that's pretty lucky. Most of them didn't last. So they went to Hong Kong, and Borijan wrote Srila Prabhupada a letter saying, we'd like to reach the students, and I think it would be a little helpful, Srila Prabhupada, if I grew out a little hair, not so I'm a Hare Krishna, but just to... Right, sorry about that. But just to... Prabhupada always said you have to be neat and clean, right? Even if you don't have to shave your head necessarily, but just be neat and clean. So Prabhupada said, yes, that's okay. And so in the beginning, when they were there in Hong Kong, and they were working, they had jobs. I think they were selling carpets or something. So they had a morning program at first because they had an apartment and they had to support that, so they worked during the day. So they had some deities and they had RT and they had some chanting, they had Bhagavatam class, and they didn't have any kids yet, so it was simple. And then the more success they were started to have with the students, the more late it became, because the students would come late after their classes and after their homework, and so they started to go to bed late and get up late. And then the morning program gradually dwindled to almost nothing. And then they would, after work, they'd go to the beach and just sort of mumble their rounds. You know, it wasn't really... But they were having success with the students. They were having dinners at the apartment and they were getting a little following. So they kind of were rationalizing it, that it must be okay. Prabhupada must be pleased with us because we're interesting the students, and the students, Prabhupada always said, are worth 100 times a man on the street. So that's how we're thinking. They were thinking like that. And then they got a letter from Satsuru Maharaj, who was traveling with Srila Prabhupada as his secretary and servant also. And he said, get ready, we're coming. Srila Prabhupada's we're coming to Hong Kong. So get ready for Srila Prabhupada. So they, in 2 weeks, pretty soon. So they rented a Rolls Royce. And they rented, which actually Prabhupada also had in Australia. I was reading. The devotees rented a Rolls Royce to pick him up. And that was a big...
It's a video.
Yeah, and that was a big... the students didn't like that, right? The radicals. And then they hired somebody to make this super opulent rose garland. And they picked him up at the airport. And they got him in the car. And, oh, Srila Prabhupada, it's so good to see you. We haven't seen you in such a long time. How are you feeling? But Prabhupada was very grave. Because Prabhupada always knew, mystically, how his disciples were really doing, where they were at. So Prabhupada just looks at Borijan square in the eye and says, what is your morning program? And Borijan starts to explain, oh, Srila Prabhupada, we started to have one, but then the students were coming late, and so we got up late. Now we get up late, and we chant our rounds later. So Prabhupada just says, whose disciple are you? You know my instructions. Now, was Prabhupada being harsh? No, he was trying to protect them. Because Prabhupada knew that if you give Maya an inch, she will take a mile. First it's neglecting the in the morning program, then it'll be breaking the principles, then it will be, who knows? There's no end to how Maya, little by little, that's how Maya works, in incremental steps. So here's what Borijan said about that. Where's the mic? Okay, Prabhu. So read Borijan's commentary on that whole incident.
I have been imagining a Prabhupada that allowed a compromise of purity and Krishna conscious practices. When I was suddenly confronted by the real Prabhupada, the illusory Prabhupada dissolved like mist after sunrise. Prabhupada, as he himself said, was 90% liberal, but that other 10% was strict.
Does anybody know where Prabhupada said, I'm 90% liberal? It was when Prabhupada took his first plane ride from New York to San Francisco to open up the second center. Prabhupada had an airport reception. The newspapers didn't know who he was, but there was somebody in the reception they knew. It was Allen Ginsberg, the counterculture poet. So they interviewed Allen Ginsberg, and they said, who's this? Oh, this is Swami Bhaktivedanta. He's genuine, he's authentic, he's great. He chants Hare Krishna. Of course, Swamiji is very conservative. So when the devotees read the article the next day, when the devotee read that line, Prabhupada stopped them. He said, conservative? I'm 90% liberal. Why did he say that? What did he mean that he was 90% liberal? Can you think? Oh, first of all, why did Ginsburg say he was conservative? Raise your hand. Because what? Yeah, regulative principles. That like separates Prabhupada from all the other gurus, swamis, and yogis, right there. In the 4 regulative principles. But why did Prabhupada say I'm 90% liberal? What did Prabhupada do? He crossed the ocean. He came. Usually sadhus don't cross the ocean. They don't want to associate with people like me, born and raised on sex, drugs, and rock and roll. But Prabhupada wasn't afraid of that. Out of compassion, he overlooked so much, he tolerated so much, he had so much patience, because he saw sincerity, and he was willing to work with rough people to bring them to a higher, to refine them. He saw diamonds in the rough, as we say. And he, like I told you, he said to Shyamadasi, I will make, my spiritual master has made me a jewel, and I will make you all jewels. So Prabhupada was willing to tolerate so much. So he said he was 90% liberal. But as Bhurijan Prabhu said, that other 10% was strict. As Prabhupada would say, I cannot change the philosophy to suit the Americans. Right? Okay, so how can we avoid having an illusory Prabhupada? Raise your hand and tell us. How can we avoid having an illusory Prabhupada? Okay, I saw Prabhu's hand first, so let's get the mic.
By following Prabhupada's instructions.
And how can we do that? By hearing them.
By hearing.
Some people don't read Prabhupada's books, some people don't hear his tapes. If it's just Jai Prabhupada, if we just sing and dance, that's sentimental. I mean, that's nice. But if we don't hear, he lives forever by his divine instruction. That's how we live with Prabhupada. That's how he's present. That's how he reciprocates with us. So yeah, we have to be like a bird. You ever see a bird with his ear to the ground, listening for the worm? We have to keep our ear to the ground of Prabhupada's instructions. And then we'll know what is what, and what to do, what not to do, and we'll be inspired, and we'll know who's genuine, who's fake. So it's pretty simple. By regularly hearing and studying Prabhupada's words, and by serving with devotees who are serious and sincere about strictly following his life, teachings, mood, and mission. So I'm really inspired to be in Melbourne, because we have such a nice congregation. Everybody has good relationships, encouraging each other in Krishna consciousness. Nice youngsters. Good going, guys. All right, here's another sentimental fiction. So, this is, you're not part of it. Is there still a Commonwealth?
Yes.
But you're not bound by any, somebody explained this to me. In the 90s, there was a cut. Canada and Australia don't have to, I don't know what it is, but there's a history to the Commonwealth. I think it's just a name only now. Yeah. Okay, and that's the point. Queen Elizabeth, we don't want, so here's why I put Queen Elizabeth up there. Okay, so figurehead Prabhupada. Like in 2012 when Queen Elizabeth toured Great Britain, it was her Diamond Jubilee. That means 60th anniversary. More than Golden Jubilee. And everywhere she went, it was God Save the Queen, and everybody loves Queen Elizabeth. She even went to Harrow, near the Bhaktivedanta Manor, to the Krishna Monkey School. And she had darshan of, I think, Mornitai or Panchatattva. She and her husband, Prince Philip, received garlands. They had prasad. It was really, she got the mercy, you know. So everywhere she went that year, she was hailed as the great Queen Elizabeth. And even in the years since then, she's now the longest serving queen. She ascended to the throne in 1952. When I was 6 years old, she's the only Queen of England I've ever known. So, but who has the authority in Great Britain? You know their system of government. It's a parliamentary democracy, like you have in
Prime Minister.
Prime Minister. Oh God, yeah. Anyway, what can I say? Ours is worse. Uh, but that's how. But she doesn't have any authority. So it's not that they're, that she's their queen, birth after birth, right? It's not like. But now you're going to see some nice excerpt from Vaishnav Etiquette. It's a book by Satsrup Maharaj and Sahos Katra. You're gonna. Okay, you got the. Okay. So read that, Prabhu. It's a very nice excerpt.
Figurehead Prabhupada. The Guru, especially the Jagat Guru, is not like a family priest for performing ritual ceremonies, nor is he a figurehead appointed by the institution. Without real presence in the hearts and minds of his followers. Rather, he is the core of his followers' very being. He is my Lord, birth after birth.
Jakudan dilo ye janme janme Prabhu se. Now, how many native Bengalis in the room? Oh, you are. Where were you born? Calcutta, Prabhupada's hometown. So you know what that means, just by your mother tongue. Jakudan dilo ye, what does it mean?
Like who has bestowed the eyes.
Yes, open my darkened eyes, fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. Okay, now number one, if we're not native Bengali, then we probably don't even know what we're singing when we sing Sri Guru Vandana, right? And even if we know the translation, do we believe it? Do we live it? Is Prabhupada really our Lord, birth after birth? I mean, you know how Prabhupada started this Guru Puja, historically? It was April 1974 in Bombay. And it was the first year that a lot of devotees went to India for the Mayapur and Vrindavan festivals, and the Prabhupada was in Bombay. And he would go in front of the deities for darshan arti, and then he would all offer flowers to the deities. In this case, Sri Sri Radha Rasa Bihari, he was still constructing a temple. So, but one defined day, after Prabhupada did that, he went straight up on his Vyasasana and he taught the devotees a new song in front of the deities. And it was Sri Guru Vandana. So it's quite a statement. Let's see if I say anything about here. Yeah. When Srila Prabhupada introduced daily Guru Puja to himself in his temples after the deity greeting, he was making a strong founder Acharya statement whose deepening significance will help us find the unity we need to take Krishna consciousness to every town and village. Yeah, we just thought it was a cool new song, because our temple president brought it back to Gainesville, Florida, where I was serving. Oh, cool, a new song, so it's another item in the morning program, greet the deities, you hear Jamunas and the devotees singing in concert, as Prabhupada said. And then we do Guru Puja. But Srila Prabhupada was the only guru in ISKCON at that time. As I said, he was Shiksha, Diksha, founder Acharya, grandfather, all rolled into one. But now that we have this multiple guru culture, the significance is more, as we understand that there are many Guru Devs, Guru Maharajas, but Prabhupada is the Prabhupada. He's the Prabhu, at his feet all the other Prabhus sit. And sometimes he would be criticized for that. Why are you letting people worship you in front of the deities? It says in Nectar Devotion, no, you shouldn't worship anybody else before the deity. But everything Prabhupada did is to preserve and protect ISKCON. Because that's the way lines go on. When the founder Acharya is venerated above all others, as we saw in lesson 2. That's the way the Ramanujis go on, the Madhvas. You keep your founder Acharya front and center. Because ISKCON is a multiple guru culture with God families all over the world, but Prabhupada does provide that unity amidst that ever-increasing diversity. So, do we believe it? How can we keep Srila Prabhupada from becoming a mere figurehead whose authority fades with the passage of time. Again, by regularly studying Srila Prabhupada's words and by serving with devotees who are serious and sincere about following Prabhupada's life, teachings, mood, and mission. Failure to do this leads to the next sentimental fiction. So, gone forever. He was that great guru who walked among us for 12 years and now he's gone. That's the material vision. This Prabhupada is in Germany here. And I've been told this is partial profile of a sannyasi who, you probably don't know. He's German born, but he preaches a lot in South America, so that's pretty far away from you. You ever heard of Bhakti Bhushana Maharaj? Okay, so you've heard of him. He's very nice. So Prabhupada is having a good laugh at something, so maybe he's laughing at this. All right. Now we're going to, that's the fiction. Now let's read the fact. So where's the, okay?
There are two ways of association, by Vam and Vani and by Vapo. Vani means words and Vapo means physical presence. Physical presence is sometimes appreciable and sometimes not, but Vani continues to exist eternally. Therefore, we must take advantage of the Vani, not the physical presence.
Now if this is all you've ever heard that Prabhupada said about Vapu, you might take that wrong. And if your Guru Maharaj comes, and this is all you know, you might ignore him. Oh, good to see you, Guru Maharaj. The pizza's in the microwave. No, Vapu was also important. Vapu was also important. Why? Because when you serve the Vapu, it's an inspiration to serve him forever, even when he's not among us. And for us, Srila Prabhupada, even when he was walking this earth, we'd see him once a year. And now we're all, from material point of view, orphans. But not really, because even when Prabhupada walked among us, he was so powerful that his Vani, his words, would keep us alive. We had cassette tapes in those days, that was the technology, and we had his books that were coming out. So he could sustain us. And also he was traveling all over the world, so it was, where's Prabhupada today, and what's he doing? And we didn't have all the letters at our fingertips and all the movies that we have now. Now you have a complete record of Prabhupada's Vapu Leela, so you have both there. So here's another thing about Vani and Vapu. Quote, to carry out the teachings of the Guru is more important than to worship the form, but none of them should be neglected. Form is called Vapu and teachings is called Vani. Both should be worshipped. But Vani is more important than Vapu. And I told you my morning walk story, right? Did I tell you that? About, I was right back of Prabhupada's head.
Yeah.
I told you that. Yeah. Yeah, so you can be in total Maya and be right next to your Guru. Or you can be, or the Guru could have left years ago physically and you'd be so with him, just like Prabhupada said he was with his Guru Maharaj. It's a matter of consciousness, how your consciousness is purified. Although the spiritual master's form and function are spiritual, it is his instructions that sustain us over time. As Srila Prabhupada noted on the dedication page of his Srimad Bhagavatam, he lives forever by his divine instructions, and the follower lives with him. Okay, we're getting toward the end. So although the founder Acharya provides the core identity for all generations of his followers, some people still insist on appointing Srila Prabhupada as everyone's perpetual Diksha Guru, which is another sentimental fiction. So that's the fiction. Diksha Guru forever Prabhupada. And now we're going to read the fact. So, okay, Mahesh Prabhu. We're going to read the fact here. And this is just one of many quotes to counter the fiction.
Fact. Keep trained up very rigidly and then you are bona fide Guru. and you can accept the disciples on the same principle. But as a matter of etiquette, it is the custom. It is the custom that during the lifetime of your spiritual master, you bring the prospective disciples to him, and in his absence or disappearance, you can accept disciples without any limitation.
And
this is the law of disciple succession.
look at that.
Disciple succession.
This is there's more, but Prabhupada was forever addressing details. He was never breaking laws. This is the law of disciplic succession. So this whole Diksha Guru for everything is completely concocted. Okay, go ahead.
I want to see my disciples become bona fide spiritual master and spread Krishna consciousness very widely. That will make me and Krishna very happy.
So many. Here's another one. Thank you. This is 1969. This is 2 books had come out, and Prabhupada is in ecstasy. The heavily abridged Macmillan Gita and Teachings of Lord Chaitanya. And this occasion sent Prabhupada into ecstasy, and he started talking about degrees. We're going to have degree programs, which we have these Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti Vaibhav. So this is in 69 in January. Prabhupada says, quote, I want that all of my spiritual sons and daughters will inherit this title of Bhaktivedanta, so that the family transcendental diploma will continue through the generations. Those possessing the title of Bhaktivedanta will be allowed to initiate disciples. Maybe by 1975. And Prabhupada didn't even say it was going to be gone. But maybe by 1975, all of my disciples will be allowed to initiate and increase the numbers of the generations. That is my program. Prabhupada has a very expansive approach to the parampara. That's why people like, you've heard of Krishna House in Gainesville, Florida? This is the most successful college preaching in America. Krishna Lunch, Krishna House, and yeah, it's great. So some of these people from the campus, they become so committed to Krishna consciousness, they want Diksha. And when Kalakanta Prabhu, my godbrother, initiates them, he says, I don't know if he does it every time, but he says, now, I want to see you become so serious and sincere and committed to Krishna consciousness that in 10 years, you'll be able to initiate people. This is Prabhupada's mood. Because Prabhupada wants millions of gurus. So we got a lot of catching up to do, right? Here's another one. This is 1975. Quote, Prabhupada's in Tehran, Iran, and there's Maitreya Rishi and his wife, and Dayananda and his wife, and Navayova and his wife. There's some Western Grihastas there. So you, every one of you, can become guru, he's telling these householder disciples. You may say that I'm not interested to become guru, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that if you're not interested, that's not very good. You should be interested. You must be guru. That is success of your life. So again, Prabhupada not only wants us to take shelter, he wants us to give shelter to our capacity. Here's one more. Quote, it is not, this is in a lecture on Prabhupada's disappearance, on Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's disappearance day. Quote, it is not that you have become a student and you'll remain student. No. One day you shall become also guru and make more students, more. That is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission, not that perpetually, and then Prabhupada catches himself. He says, yes, one should remain perpetually a student, but he has to act as guru. That is the mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And now what I do is, I identify the cause of Diksha Guru Forever Prabhupada. I don't just bash it, because everybody likes to bash the Ritviks. But they saw a fault, and they were correct in the fault. There was an imitating of Prabhupada's position. But no, in other words, they could see what was wrong, but they couldn't see what was right. Their solution was worse than the problem. So this is what I say. To be frank, what spawned this last sentimental fiction Diksha Guru Forever Prabhupada, was gross imitation of our founder Acharya during ISKCON's zonal Acharya era. The hard lesson learned from those dark days is the founder Acharya provides the core identity and foundational relationship for all generations of his followers. There's no need to sentimentally and, by the way, illegally appoint His Divine Grace as everyone's perpetual Diksha Guru. Blessed are all of Prabhupada's disciplic descendants who already have him as their foundational Guru. And blessed are the Gurus who enrich, enhance, and deepen that relationship. So to close, we'll listen to Srila Prabhupada reveal the mood of a genuine spiritual master toward his disciples. This is the only audio clip. And if we had known this by the time Prabhupada left, because he said it in 1972, then maybe we wouldn't have to have gone through all that heartbreak and tragedy and betrayal and people defecting from ISKCON. But I think it was something we had to go through. Sometimes you have to learn the hard way, and then you really get it, and you don't repeat it. So this is Srila Prabhupada lecturing in the courtyard of Radha Damodar Temple. It's kind of washed out. Where's Prabhupada there? Oh, there. Yeah. And he's lecturing on nectar devotion for weeks and weeks. And at one point in the lectures, he identifies the attitude, the mood of a bona fide spiritual master. And it's amazing to hear what Prabhupada is going to say here. It's actually inconceivable. But it's necessary to be in this mood, to really authentically give shelter. So here it is.
A spiritual master takes his devout disciples as his spiritual master. That is the position. He thinks that Krishna has sent me so many spiritual masters. He does not think himself as spiritual master. He thinks himself their servant because they are to be trained. Krishna has appointed him to train them. Therefore, he thinks himself as the servant of the disciple. This is the position.
Srila Prabhupada ki. You see how powerful Prabhupada is, because he's transparent to Krishna's potency, because he's absolutely humble. And he's in the mood of a servant. He's not in the mood of a possessive guru and that's how it was, frankly, in the 80s. People got very possessive, people got very materially competitive, and it was terrible. And we woke up and it had to go. Full absorption in Srila Prabhupada's life, teachings, mood, and mission is the best prevention and the best cure for all kinds of fictional Prabhupads. Okay, lesson outcomes. By the end of the lesson, students will be able to identify and dispel impersonal fictions about Srila Prabhupada, identify and dispel sentimental fictions about Srila Prabhupada, identify the mood of a true master toward his disciples. And this afternoon at what time? 3 o'clock. 3 to 4:30. Transition, unencumbered by impersonal and sentimental notions about our founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada, we are now ready to cultivate our own unique, authentic relationship with him as his eternal loving servants. Okay, I'm going to button up. And you're going to put the sage on the stage? Put the guide on the side? Maybe we should put it here. No, that's right. Okay, we got 10 minutes. I didn't tell my guru the story yet, did I? Might be a good time to tell it, but it's going to take a little, probably go over.
The zonal acceleration, do you want to explain?
Well, we did visit the zonal acharya, but you want to explain more? You want?
Yeah. The
Okay.
idea of choosing gurus locally.
Oh yeah.
I wasn't clear. So I wasn't clear what was the zonal acharya system before. That's the first clarity I need, and then the proposal that we should be looking at gurus locally. Seems to be we're going back to that.
Yeah, what exactly was that zonal acharya? Well, to be perfectly honest, we were so, including the zonal acharyas, we were in such a state of shock after Prabhupada left that it was mysterious how to really carry on. Even though Prabhupada made it very clear in 1977, despite people trying to misconstrue what Prabhupada said and wrote in different conversations and different letters, how the initiation system would go on. Prabhupada became so incapacitated in the last year that he identified people who would initiate in different areas of the world on his behalf. They would still be Prabhupada's disciples. That's where the famous July 9th letter comes in. And they will be Ritvik Acharya. But Prabhupada had already made it clear after his demise, whoever initiates will become, whoever receives initiation will become disciple of my disciple. Because that's the Parampara system. So that was, you remember in TKG's diary, it was June, June 27th. And Prabhupada says, so after me, how we will, have you chosen one person who will, and then Tamal Krishna Maharaj said, no, we will work cooperatively, nobody's more qualified than the other. Yes, each of you can be acharya of your zone, and it's a GBC idea, it's more of a managerial idea. It doesn't mean that they're going to be lords, GBC guru. Sometimes there's proposals, there's discussion amongst the GBC. That should be separated out because to be fair, Prabhupada, if you read Prabhupada's instructions on GBC, what a GBC is, there's two hats being worn there. And it's a rare bird that can wear them both successfully. One's a Kshatriya hat, a manager hat, an administrator hat. And it's rough, you got to, because as soon as you begin, like I think I said last night at the hall, all glories to Aniruddha Prabhu because he's been a TP for 30 years, despite the fact that as soon as you're in charge, you were a target on your back, right? Because everybody has complaints about how things are being managed. So to be in that kind of position of a manager, what to speak of a GBC, you have to develop kind of, as we say, a thick skin. Not a callousness, but you have to be able to take that and not take it personally. You have to just take it as austerity of the service. So that's one hat the GBC has. And then on the other hand, you see how Prabhupada says, yes, the GBCs must travel to the temples in their zone, and they must be ideal, they must be learned in the Shastras, they must preach. It's like a Brahminical hat. So sometimes there's proposals to separate those two roles. GBCs, like I took a course, what did I take? I took a course in Vaishnava etiquette and behavior from Bhakti Brihad Bhagavat Maharaj. Does he ever come? Australian? No? He's from South Africa and he's a great teacher and he teaches a lot of courses at the GBC college and he's in Mayapur and Vrindavan. He's a teacher. So he favors how is it? Only grihastas should be gurus. I'm just throwing this out to show you how this whole guru-disciple culture and the GBC culture is still a work in progress. It's not completely settled. But he likes that that it should be husband and wife who are initiating. Then you have initiating guru, and then you have guru ma. You have the brahmani, what is it? Guru patni, like Chanakya. How does it start? 7 mothers. I forget the verse. Matrivat Paradar. No, that's the Chanakya Shlok. But he also said that he has this 7 mothers. The first is, I forget if I could get the first, I can tell you the verse.
King's wife.
Yeah, the king Rajapatnika, Guru Patni. Okay, well that, yeah, Brahmani, yeah, Guru Patni. So then you have, you have the husband who's the guru, and then his wife is there because she's like a fort. She protects the husband, and then she can deal with the ladies, and they're right there with their disciples, on the ground, and they can be in charge of the temples too, and then there'll be local gurus, and then you have the GBCs are free to travel and preach, and the sannyasis are free to travel and preach. That's Maharaj's. So we'll see how things play out, but. So Prabhupada's idea of zonal acharya, it was just a practical thing of how the GBCs could continue in their service. And they could also, because in those days, they happened to coincide with because Prabhupada would choose his best men to be GBCs. And so when he was delegating people to carry on initiations, he was also saying, yeah, you can initiate. And he named 11 people who would correspond to 11 different parts of the world. So Bhavananda Prabhu now was here, and then in America, and then in Europe, and in South America. But from other statements, we know that it's not that Prabhupada wanted just to have, 11 superstars, and then that's the only choices. And you wouldn't see him, right? So much. So Prabhupada did want a very to enable that mutual examination process, and to make it more local and sustainable. That's why Prabhupada said we need millions of gurus. And we just heard him say, you're all supposed to, you're students, but you should all act as teachers someday. You should also be able to give shelter. So it more reflects an historical condition. It's not that there's any contradiction. Just because Prabhupada traveled all around the world and depended on his temple presidents to see if people were ready for initiation, he'd fly in and fly out, doesn't mean perpetually we're supposed to just have fly in and fly out guru-disciple culture. He wants everybody.
Broad spectrum. Broad spectrum.
He wants a complete, comprehensive guru-disciple culture, which operates best when you have a lot of contact with your spiritual master. Anything else I can say about that? Yeah, I think it just more reflects historically what was going on in ISKCON than what Prabhupada ultimately wants. Historically, what was going on in ISKCON, there was no varnashrama. And we're still, it's not fulfilled. Doesn't mean it's not there in Prabhupada's Vani. And you'll see in the last lesson, as we end with bullet points of the benefits of understanding Prabhupada's position, is that many, many things that Prabhupada indicated he wanted to happen in ISKCON wasn't manifest in the time he was with us. It's like he only manifested, like we say, the tip of the iceberg. He said fully half of his mission wasn't done. He didn't mean the Bhagavatam. He meant this whole varnashram community example for the world, so the world can take shelter in sustainable, ecologically sound, sattvic communities. I think it's the best I can do for right now. But do you want to ask something more that maybe will later? Okay. Yeah, we're going to talk. 6:30 we're having. Okay, we have Shukadev Prabhu. Let's see. Well, it's 12:30, but we'll have to come back till 3, so we can go a little longer if you want. We're not doing 2 and 1 like yesterday. Prabhu.
wanted to clarify on the, as Prabhupada says, it's the predominantly it is the general law that while spiritual master is living, then disciple does not take disciples, or unless in a situation where spiritual master gives the permission to take a disciple. How we too in this college, it's big. We want to go bigger and the biggest.
And it's already happened, right? Gurus have authorized people to initiate. So do you remember, this is why it's really important to take everything Prabhupada said as much as possible. So before we put that slide up there, this is the law of disciplic succession, this is the etiquette. Oh no, it was the letter after that. Do you remember what Prabhupada said in that 69 letter? Yeah, I'll read it again. Okay. This is 1969, January. Early. Quote, I want that all of my spiritual sons and daughters will inherit this title of Bhaktivedanta, so that the family transcendental diploma will continue through the generations. Those possessing the title of Bhaktivedanta will be allowed to initiate disciples. Maybe by 1975, he didn't say he was going to be gone then, but this is his expansive mood. Maybe by 1975, all of my disciples will be allowed to initiate. All of my disciples. So we expect that everybody's going to inherit the Bhaktivedanta diploma, and we're all going to start, will be allowed to initiate and increase the numbers of the generations. That is my program. So in the mood of that, in that expansive mood, that's why, as far as I understand, the exception to the rule is made if there's a need. And if people are qualified, then we take Prabhupada's expansive mood. Just like His Holiness Sripad Jayapataka Maharaj has allowed his Diksha disciple in Russia, Chaitanya Chandra Charan, and his wife, their husband-wife team. He has allowed him to initiate because now Maharaj is limited physically, and Prabhu is qualified, so it's going on. Because one of the biggest challenges in Russia is it's just so booming, and there's not enough senior devotees to help. I have friends in Russia, and they tell me by email. I have a friend in Vladivostok, and they see their GBC once every 2 years, and otherwise it's all new people, and they just make things up. Because they don't have any guidance, you know. So, yeah, they need more people being encouraged locally to step up and be spiritual moms and dads. Officially. So there won't be, people doubting their authority to do that. So yeah, it's we had to take all of Prabhupada, or else we get confused by the apparent contradictions. Okay, should I tell the Guru story? I better tell it before I forget it. Yeah, because I've got to leave tomorrow morning. Okay, so I better take a swig, right? Got to fortify myself. It's non-alcoholic, don't worry. I haven't touched a drop since 1970. Prabhupada saved me, Boy, am I. No. Stay high forever. Chant Hare Krishna. All right. So, I have a colleague in ISKCON Education, and when I was doing the research, the research never stops. But because Prabhupada keeps showing me, because I keep hearing Prabhupada and reading, and so I keep finding new stuff. But the first research I did in the spring and summer and fall of 2011. And then later in the fall I hit the road with my first PowerPoints. So anyway, I have a colleague in ISKCON Education, and she has sworn me to anonymity for her. She doesn't want to be the poster child to how to take initiation after 17 years. And I've honored that. And she once saw me tell her story on the internet at Soho Street in London, and I told it just the way she told me. And she said, "Thank you for not mentioning my name and for telling the story right." So I'm still doing it. Okay. So this lady is very bright. She was a teacher before she came to ISKCON. And she first read Prabhupada's Gita 10 years after Prabhupada left this world. So that means 1987. And she was thrilled to read Bhagavad Gita as it is. And she's from India, so she had been aware, she knew the Gita. But as it is finally made sense, and now she knew the mystery of the Bhagavad Gita, right? But then she was totally mortified to find out that the author had left this world 10 years earlier. She wanted to find this person, you know, but she went to Calcutta, and then they said, "Oh, Prabhupada has left this world in 1977. But still she was so inspired by Prabhupada's Gita that she decided she wanted to join the mission. So she did. And and she was a single lady, not married, young lady, but she'd been a teacher already. She was a little Western educated too. I think she did her college years in Hong Kong, which had British schools at the time. British have since left Hong Kong. So 87, she read the Gita, and then she joined the mission, and then in 89, she met a Prabhupada initiate, godbrother of mine, keeping it all anonymous here, and they ended up marrying. She married a Prabhupada initiate, and then they moved to America. And she's reading Prabhupada's books. You know, she's a good student of the books. That's why she's a good teacher. And of course it says in Nectar Devotion that you have to take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master, and you have to receive initiation. So, I mean, she already knows that Prabhupada is her guru in a sense, because she read she read the Gita that everybody's studying. But she knows she's supposed to be initiated. So she starts corresponding with a certain person who inspires her, who is a writer. But the person wrote her, when she said, I'm really inspired by you and your writings, and I like to perhaps take initiation from you. So the person says, well, I'm not so much giving out Diksha anymore, and you're already married to a Prabhupada initiate, so why don't you just take instruction from your disciple, because I'm just not initiating anymore. I'm kind of retired from that. So she's disappointed, and she really is inspired by this person, but she just decides, okay, I guess I'll just follow his advice and take Diksha from my husband, my Pati Guru. But she's reading Prabhupada's books, and she keeps coming up against this instruction that one must take initiation from a bona fide spiritual master. This is Nectar Devotion, Prabhupada's summary study of Srila Rupa Goswami's Bhakti-rasamrita Sindhu. But while she's reading that, it's the early 90s now, and ISKCON is still going through its traumas and dramas as regards guru-disciple, and there's still a lot of things to sort out, and she begins to get a little gun-shy of taking initiation. Maybe I'll be disappointed. Maybe I'll be betrayed. Maybe someone's going to come in between me and Prabhupada. And she doesn't want that to happen. But she's reading the books, and the books say you've got to take initiation. You can see the dilemma, right? And then the 90s go on, And then the late 90s, and remember Y2K?
Yes.
The whole world's going to go up in a puff of cyber smoke because of some glitch in the numbers, the numerals, and all the computers are going to go, ah! And civilization as we know it is going to... So anyway, Y2K came and went, and the world didn't end. And so everybody's thinking a little straighter again. And then this lady says to her husband, Prabhu, it's been 13 years now since I've read Srila Prabhupada, started reading Srila Prabhupada's books. I'm in a real bind here because I know Prabhupada wants me to take initiation because I run up against this all the time in his recordings and in his books. But from what ISKCON's been going through, I can't imagine offering incense to somebody else's picture or offering food to someone else. I just don't want anybody to come in between me and Prabhupada. But Prabhupada says I have to take initiation. So what do I do? And this is an ongoing, you can imagine, discussion at the kitchen table for many years. So anyway, a couple of years later, they're at a festival. And a certain leader is speaking at the festival, and she becomes inspired again. Wow, this is really quite a leader. I really like this leader. So she says to her husband, Prabhu, we have to have a meeting with this leader. I have to tell him my dilemma, and maybe he can help me. I think he can. He looks pretty inspiring. So the husband says, okay, I'll approach the festival manager and see if we can arrange a darshan with a leader. So the manager says, well, Maharaj is, he's been traveling so much and he's not feeling well, and I'll tell you what, I'll give you 10 minutes with Maharaj. 10 minutes, right? To tell her whole life story and her dilemma. So anyway, the meeting happens, and 10 minutes turns into 20 minutes, turns into 30 minutes, turns into 40 minutes. And the leader is so compassionate that he gives this lady more time. And in the course of 40 minutes, this lady describes her dilemma, and she says, frankly, I can't imagine anybody, as I said, offering incense, offering food to anyone else, because I know Prabhupada is my spiritual master. But I'm supposed to take initiation from a manifest guru, somebody that I can write and see. So, is this offensive, Maharaj? Is this offensive? Is my attitude wrong? So is this wrong? So the leader is very compassionate and is very wise. And he says, no, your attitude's not offensive. It's intelligent. So that was the beginning. And then the leader proceeds to tell this lady how long it took him to surrender to Srila Prabhupada. And then he said something which really unlocked the mystery for her, which she had never heard before. And we're talking 2003. He said, now, what if you took initiation from someone who would not block your relationship with Srila Prabhupada? Who would enhance, enrich, and deepen your relationship with Srila Prabhupada? What do you think about that? So you know what the lady said? Oh, I never heard that before. Well, no wonder she was stuck. She had never heard about what a bona fide guru, post-founder Acharya, is supposed to do. Because, frankly, ISKCON was still recovering from the Zonal Acharya era, so there was still too much of a conflation of Diksha Guru with founder Acharya. So, wow, yeah, thank you very much, Maharaj. So then she starts corresponding with him. And over a year's time, she takes Diksha, finally, in 2004, 17 years after 1987, when she first read Prabhupada's Gita. Now, I kind of knew her story, but when I was started the research, before I left Mayapur in 2011, when this GBC committee encouraged me to make this seminar, and so I wrote this lady, and I said, my dear such and such, could you please put your story in writing? Because I think it would be a valuable story to tell the devotees at the right time for these seminars that I really want to make. I haven't even made the seminars yet. But anyway, I went back, and then I did get a letter from her in telling the whole story, as I just told you. But then she included an epilogue. And she said, so this is 2011, she took Diksha in 2004, so it's 7 years since she had been initiated. And she said, and I'm very happy to tell you, Sureshwar, that in the 7 years since I've taken Diksha from Maharaj, he has not only kept his promise to enrich, enhance, and deepen my relationship with Srila Prabhupada, but because he himself is so transparent to Srila Prabhupada and the whole Parampara, he has also now taken his place in my heart at the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada. So I wrote back, yes, that's Parampara. That's the way it works. The Guru doesn't replace the founder Acharya, he takes his place at the lotus feet of the founder Acharya, and on and on and on for many generations. It all works on transparency. If you read the Gita 1875 purport, Vyasat prasadat strutavahan etad guhyam aham param. Sanjaya says, by the mercy of Vyas, I have heard these most sacred talks between Krishna and Arjuna, etc. And then in the purport, Prabhupada talks about that this is the mystery of the disciplinate succession. It's direct, but it's through the parampara, and it all rests on transparency. As soon as there's some occlusion, some opaqueness, some translucency, then it gets diluted, and you don't get the real thing. You're not going all the way back. So this lady was thrilled that she had gotten a bona fide spiritual master who was in the proper mood, that mood that Prabhupada described, servant of the disciple, and therefore he had also taken his place at Prabhupada's lotus feet. So did you find that a valuable story? I think it's the best story, Guru and disciple story, how it works after Prabhupada. Yeah. All right, 12:49. So I guess we can go to one if you want. Does anybody have any more questions or comments about? Okay. And I didn't tell her name, so if she sees this on YouTube, she will be very happy.
So there are two things, illusory Prabhupada and sentimental.
Well, that sentimental is the category, and then illusory is one of the sentimental.
Illusory, okay. We had first one, which is Prabhupada is God.
That's under the impersonal category.
Impersonal.
Right.
That was brought out by some of his disciples. You said the incident and leading up to it. Then
they really believed Prabhupada was Krishna. They're in their psychological flip-flop. They became mad, actually.
So I was able to relate to that. Then GBC is Prabhupada, that was brought out by GBC assuming the ultimate authority, and then they clarifying after you said about...
Yeah, they're one and different. They're certainly Prabhupada's representatives, managerially, but they don't replace him as the ultimate, as the founder Acharya, the ultimate authority. And the GBC really understands that. After so many, all you have to do is read the GBC resolutions to see how convoluted and a lot of mistakes. So that's okay, you know, and I mean, that was the best we could do. I mean, what was I doing? I was just I always called myself the loyal opposition. Trying to make constructive criticisms. But I wasn't advanced enough to be a GBC. So, anyway, so GBC, and then I'm on this, so it's Prabhupada's representatives. Just like Guru, they're his managerial representatives, but Shiksha and Diksha Gurus don't replace the founder Acharya on that side either. They try to enrich, enhance, and deepen. So the GBC is trying to manage ISKCON such that everybody will be inspired. Right? Prabhupada said, management follows preaching like a shadow. So if the GBC is preaching and practicing what they preach, then people will be inspired to follow that kind of GBC. They won't just say, oh, he's a manager. He doesn't know what his shlokas or... Yeah. So, go ahead.
So how did this come up? Like ISKCON is Prabhupada. When did that come up, or who brought it up?
Oh, okay, yeah, that's a good point. Okay, ISKCON is Prabhupada. So it must have come up because Prabhupada brought it up. He brought it up to those students. If someone says, what does it say? To those London students. Yeah.
In the sense that I am the life and the disciples are like the limbs.
Let's see here. Has Prabhupada, okay. Yeah, well, Prabhupada also said ISKCON is my body. But that was never recorded, so I just use that other quote. It's, the limbs of my body. There's plenty of ear witness testimony to Prabhupada saying, ISKCON is my body, the BBT is my heart. But because I couldn't find it in the database, I wanted to put something that you could actually look up. So that means that ISKCON is his external manifestation, his vehicle, the institution that he started to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. There was an American philosopher, I think it was Emerson, who said, an institution is the lengthened shadow of a man, meaning humanity, not necessarily just a male. An institution is the lengthened shadow of a man. So ISKCON is Prabhupada's manifestation. But not everything that goes on in ISKCON is necessarily Prabhupada. And that's why we have to continually course correct, by getting back to Prabhupada's teachings and hearing from him. Suppose if I say, I am everything and this is my institution. Does it mean that I have lost my personality? No. If somebody says that Bhaktivedanta Swami is everything, does it mean that I have lost my personality? That is a material understanding. So even though so many events and phenomena emanate from ISKCON, Prabhupada remains the complete balance, as it says in Isopanishad, right? Even though so many complete units emanate from Krishna, that's it. Purnameva Vashit, he remains the complete balance. So it's dangerous to think, to just be an institutional person. He wants people who are, why did he say he wanted his followers to be independently thoughtful? Not so they could make up things and just go off, and make something up. But he wanted people to be purified of the independent of the three modes of material nature, so we could hear him purely, so we could purely follow him. Yeah. He wants us to be loyal to ISKCON. ISKCON, for all thy faults, I love thee. But he doesn't want us to just be yes men, blind followers, company men, they say in the corporate culture. Yeah, whatever you say. That funny story about Prabhupada on a morning walk in Cheviot Hills Park, or Beverly Hills. And Prabhupada's walking, it's a very opulent place. It's where the movie stars live. And Prabhupada's So, and he's seeing a house. So, someday we will have a temple like that. This is before they had Vatsika Avenue, the church. Jai Srila Prabhupada. And someday we will have cars like that. Vehicles. Jai Srila Prabhupada. And then there's a dog guarding one of the houses. And some days we will have a dog like that. Jai Srila Prabhupada. And then Prabhupada turns, you fools, why are we going to keep a dog like that? We don't need dogs. So Prabhupada was leading them on because they were going Jai Jai, it's just like Zig Heil, right? They were saluting. But they weren't thinking. Nobody was critically thinking. Nobody thought, Srila Prabhupada, do we really want a dog? Very good. We don't need a dog. So Prabhupada was leading them on. And then he was making fun of blind following. So ISKCON as an institution is very important, but we have to always we have to think critically. Are we doing the right thing? Constructively critical, not destructively critical. Not like the people on the internet that are always, they won't be happy unless they can criticize destructively. Right? That's their mission, is to commit the first offense, to blaspheme the devotees, so that's their life and soul, just doing that. So ISKCON is Prabhupada's institution, and we should strive to make it better. Be the change we want to see in ISKCON. Is that all right? Okay. And then the other one was?
About the 11 successors? Or
well, the 11 people that Prabhupada identified as people who were qualified to keep the ball rolling. Now you can keep initiating.
So,
but he didn't mean just 11 for all time. At that point in time, they happened to be placed in different parts of the world, and people in their zone could approach them. That was the only choices then. But not to replace Prabhupada as the founder of Acharya, but that's what happened. More or less. It was worse in some place. Like I fled, when it all started, when the blush was off the rose, as they say, when it all started to go a little cuckoo, I fled the palace, like Vidura flees the palace. Right? I went to Gitanagari, where Satsvarup Maharaj, it was his headquarters, and that was the headquarters of his zone. And he was participating in that zonal Acharya system, so he also suffered too. He also suffered some reaction. But he was the least of ISKCON's worries. He was writing the biography of Prabhupada. And he was just giving us, he was enhancing our relationship with Prabhupada. But at the same time, he was sitting on a big throne, and he had this big title, and he kind of had to play the role, which later on he so much regretted, and so much, it practically killed him, when he thought of it. That's when he started to get ill. Yeah. So, and then he started to lead the Guru Reform movement, to step down from the big seat, to divest himself of these titles, and not accept worship on Prabhupada's level. So, But I went there because I knew that my old friend Satsvarup Maharaj wasn't going to be like what I was witnessing in other parts of the world. So I spent the 80s in on high ground. I really felt, when these things were happening in the 80s, horrendous things. I felt, wow, thank you, Krishna. Yeah, I remember the day he stepped down from his throne and said, don't call me Gurupad anymore. And so Paramananda Prabhu, the president of Gitanagari, afterwards, we were all very touched by what he was saying. But then Paramananda raised his hand and he said, Satsvarup Maharaj, we don't care if you sit on the roof. Because you just give us Prabhupada. And it was a nice sentiment, but at the same time it was true that he was distancing himself from that imitation, that whole system. And then it just naturally crumbled. But then we had to deal with the Ritvik reaction. Dr. Frankenstein had to deal with his monster that he created, so to speak. That's the analogy I give. So the solution is not to say that Prabhupada is the only guru, and the solution isn't to make the Diksha guru like the founder of Acharya. It's to stop this pendulum swing squarely at the lotus feet of Prabhupada as the founder of Acharya, and have everybody, like I think I brought up, like Giriraj Swami wrote that book, Many Moons. So think of the founder of Acharya like the sun, and think of the people, think of all the many moons, not stars, twinkling stars, but the many moons. He wants us to all become the many moons, right? For all generations. So the orbit can go out farther and farther, but they're orbiting around the founder of Acharya. So there's no loss, there's no disconnection. As I was experiencing in Mayapur, my students were so disconnected. Thank you very much for listening. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.